Well, here we are. We're up, we're up at the top of the tower, and I think you said to me earlier, this is really great. It's kind of like a middle-high space.
Yeah.
Like we're not so high that here you can almost imagine.
Touching something.
But you're high enough you kind of see. I like coming up here and you can, there's people and there's cars.
Yeah.
What are their hopes and dreams?
Well, and even like on the horizon, like it's cool to see like the church steeples popping out of the trees in like Fairfield Manor. Yeah. That's an awesome building across, you just see the roof of it. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I love this kind of height too because it's a historical view. So like, although I think we see cities as being modern or whatever, but this is like a historical city view of the city versus like the really high 26-story kind of things that feel displaced a little bit more.
Well, there was a time when they built this, 1925, 1926, the tower here, the steep was the tallest one in the city.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so, and this was about one of the tallest places in the city.
Yeah, this was a super modern view back then.
Yeah. This is it.
That's awesome.
The Empire State Building,
Fort Wayne.
Until they built the, the building down there. So you see this.
Yeah. I also think that it's cool to, I guess, just see the changes in Fort Wayne too, because you can tell so easily from up here which ones are the older buildings and the newer buildings, and like where they've filled in and stuff like that. And then also for the GE campus of whatever that is going to turn into.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
kind
inspiring.
Like past, present, future.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I also just love that you have a 360 of the city up here too, because I feel like that's actually a fairly unique thing in the older buildings where they have like a place to observe, but not necessarily.
Yeah, you go the whole way around.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So what do you guys think of your community? Like being downtown, a downtown church. I used to work for Downtown Improvement District, and so we would call the churches downtown the downtown churches, but we never really knew like why we gave them, other than the physical designation. But where is the community for your church?
Well, I think one of the things we're trying to do is we're trying to figure that out.
Well, yeah, it's always changing too, I'm sure.
When I first came here about 7 years ago, I was told, well, nobody lives downtown, so you got to find people outside of the city to come to church here, and I for a while I lived down at Midtown Crossing before I bought a house, and a lot of people were down here.
Yeah.
I mean, there's people down here all the time. I love being down here.
Yeah.
The biggest mistake my wife and I made is that we didn't buy our house right here.
Yeah. Yeah. That would have been the perfect timing. We
weren't thinking the right way. And, I love being down here. All of these people who are here, and one of the questions we ask is that, you might live out someplace else, but how can we be your Monday to Friday church, or your, even if you go to church some other place in the community, how could this place be something that meets your needs, when you're working down here?
Well, yeah, the 20,000 plus employees, if they're having a bad day and they need a place to be. Yeah.
And plus, then all of these people who are moving here, and we're trying to entice to move here, that how do we think about how do we help build meaningful community for those people who do live here? Because I think there wasn't anything here for a long time, people didn't live downtown, but now they are. So we believe we had to start thinking in a new way.
In the future, you need to make the change for people to then change their behavior after you made the change versus meeting them once. I actually wasn't able to attend it, and I feel bad about that. But my friend Chris Chris Cathcart was doing the dialogue. I loved that you guys did that. I feel like, I don't know enough about it, and so I don't want to say that you're the only church that's been willing to do those things, but I feel like you're one of few churches that have made, I hate to call it a risk, but to say, hey, we need to talk about this as a community, so we're just going to do it. And I think that churches need to do that more often, because I think that's part of the reason why some people don't go to churches, is that they don't see them as being a part of the full community. They see them as being a church community or whatever. And I just love that you guys have done that, and I hope that you guys are planning on more kind of stuff like that. Yeah,
we do. Because, we think it's our obligation. We are almost geographically perfectly in the center of the city. Yeah. So how, anybody should be able to do it. I mean, it should be us. Yeah. And you can find us.
Yeah.
If
you
get to the center of Fort Wayne, look for the green
eventually
roof,
you'll see it.
and you'll find us. But that's kind of some of who we think our business is about, the deep humanity of people. And we've talked about that, a lot of our members live in what you call suburban communities. And, and there are good churches out in those places, but we say we're really unique that, we have neighbors who go to the chapel and then they raise money for the rescue mission. But we say, if you actually want to interact with people from the rescue mission, who are you people?
Yeah.
Because
100%.
we interact with people from we have a few people who sleep on our streets. We know homeless people by their name. If you really want to get into that, this is the place for you.
And that's the role that churches have always had. And I guess I don't know if I just, but the idea of a suburban church isn't traditional in any way, really. A church has always been in the city center, and it's always been the place for all types of people, and where the rich and the poor came together. Right. And that doesn't happen in a lot of churches today because of the geographical nature of them or whatever. I love that. I feel like that. I mean, I guess that's a big thing, I think, also for my generation of people, of basically not putting up with people's hypocrisy. and so I just think that's a big deal for a church, particularly in the Christian tradition, to not be hypocritical about those kinds of things is a huge deal. And I feel like that's the kind of thing that it rings true outside of an argument. It just is. That's just a truth, and people get that. I think that's also a big thing of the function of a church. I think that people that don't come from a church back. So I have a very weird faith background or whatever, I guess, but it traditionally comes from a Christian background. My mom was Catholic, my dad's Lutheran. We went to a Methodist church.
Of course.
And so I don't know. But I feel like that's one of the things that has been troublesome in my journey. I hate when people say journey about stuff, but in my faith journey, I guess, is I've had issues with that because I've encountered certain things that just don't ring true in a very core way, and I think that everybody makes this mistake when they're younger, but so I rejected whole swaths of things because of one thing that didn't seem right, versus just finding a different version that felt good and seemed like it was true. I grew up, my mom actually grew up, well, you can't see it from here, but just on the other side of the ball diamond. But I grew up way north, where the new Parkview is, the Parkview Hospital, on Tonkel Road. Okay. But she would always bring me down. So actually, she would just bring me down right here. So I probably have seen this building since I was like tiny, because we would always go to the downtown library. And so the old school library, so it would have been before you would have actually been here. But it was this awesome Carnegie library, like old style. I don't know. It was just super cool. And so this is what I always wanted, because I lived out in the woods, and it just didn't seem, that wasn't people, it wasn't things or whatever. And so when we've come down here to like the museum or the library or whatever, I was like, oh my god, people, like this is what society looks like.
I can hardly imagine Dan Swartz living in the woods.
Oh yeah, 100%. A literal pine forest, and like animals were my friends, like because the closest people to us at that time. So my parents still live where I grew up, and now it's all like suburbia, beige land kind of a thing. But when I was growing up, it was, I think, the closest neighbor maybe a mile away, which that's not super crazy, but that was like it. And then maybe another mile was another thing. Like, it was very much rural at the time. Yeah. So.
Well, here we are.
Yeah.
Everybody's probably kind of sick of listening to us.
Yeah, sorry that I'm talking. I don't know what I'm talking about.
That's okay. We're just rambling on. But, any, before we kind of sign off, any last thoughts?
Well, thank you very much for doing this. I mentioned, I used to work for Downtown Improvement District, so I feel like I've seen almost every view of the city, but I have not seen this view of the city. So that's just awesome to complete my collection of views, Brilliant. I guess. And also thank you for just in general being as open as a church as you guys are, and how you're interacting with the community, because I think eventually, if you haven't seen the successes yet, eventually that is the most successful endeavor possible.
Yeah. Open your doors and see who comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the people who come are the right people. Whoever
it is.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us again. Thanks, Dan, and we'll see you the next time on The View from Here.
Cool.